We got more evil Shanks twin, more Loki, and Luffy even fights with someone in this crazy chapter where we get a lot of interesting information, as we'll see, including information about why the books grow in the library, which I was curious about, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Channel the Pirate King within and smash that like button if you enjoy seeing One Piece reviews like this one on the channel and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you joined the Nakama by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future One Piece videos and updates. And now, without further ado, let's jump into some Elbaf greatness, spoilers and all. So first, this chapter starts off with Saul introducing everyone to Biblo, the owl, the chief librarian of the Library of the Owl. His name, Biblo, here is quite fitting because it's like a shortened form of biblioteca, which is the Latin word for library, and many languages use something similar for library since they get it from the same Latin root. We're told Biblo has existed for many centuries and that every book that enters his domain becomes big. Multiple very old characters in this chapter. We'll see one of the oldest beings in existence later on too. And honestly, I like that the head of the library has so many years of wisdom. Our owl dude must know so much groundbreaking stuff, although I'm sure Oda won't let him spill too many beans. But perhaps just as interesting as the owl's age is this power to make things big. We've been wondering about how this works and we get the breakdown here. Before it's broken down though, we're also told that newsbirds don't go to non-government affiliated countries like Elbaf, so the fishermen actually bring the little normal paper here, and then here it becomes big so they can read it. You really gotta appreciate this kind of attention to detail and world building that Oda throws in. But back to the power breakdown, and Lilith is actually the one that says this owl most likely ate the Iku no Mi and became a nurturing owl. It can enlarge / gigantify inorganic / non-living things, a perfect ability that works well in the land of the giants. So there's the clarification that it does not apply to humans, but at the same time it doesn't mean there isn't another power that is similar that works on organic / living things here in Elbaf. We already know that Luffy's power can make him big, so it wouldn't be surprising if there is something else on Elbaf to fit the bill, even if it's not this owl. And furthermore, I gotta say I like the fact that this owl found the perfect place for itself where it really serves a useful purpose for the local population. In any other place almost, this power would be a nuisance, but here it's super valuable. We get some Luffy time and he was playing with the giant kids on the swing, but they got scared. Nami beats him to a pulp and Usopp is beaten too. But here's the hilarious kicker. Usopp says he was actually trying to stop Luffy. That one got me. The kids jump on Gurd's chest crying. Luffy gets angry because that's not how a warrior should act. Right, it's the same sentiment I shared last chapter, that kind of disappointment that this hyped up brave warrior nation is no longer living up to that image. It's like they beat a time traveling android and saved the world as a teenager only to become a scholar later. Anyways, I relate to the way Luffy feels here. Sanji is the one who tries to explain to Luffy that the children of Elbaf are meek and kind, but we then find out that the kids were just pretending, and then they smile in a way like Momo did with Nami and Robin because now they are being held close to Gurd's body. Comedy is on point in this one as Sanji pulls a 180 and snaps, saying, "Is this a universal commonality, you shitty kid?" Luffy is sad because of the peacefulness of the kids, while Usopp actually says that it can't be helped because Elbaf has become peaceful. But as if answering Luffy's prayers, here comes Colin, the giant village version of Kid Luffy who looks up to Shanks too, and he attacks Luffy. His wooden sword breaks when it makes contact with Luffy, and Luffy for his part tries to punch him with Gear 3 Elephant Gun, but Colin actually moves out of the way. Now this is beyond impressive for a kid, but I guess we can just say that Luffy isn't being too serious with him. They're just horsing around. Still though, Usopp tells Luffy he is overdoing it, while Luffy says, "I didn't hit him." The giant girls are scared of Luffy because they hate violence. I love this next part. Get this kid is impressed with Luffy. Luffy says Colin is one gutsy kid, and Colin says, "As expected of an emperor." The way he talks even reminds me of Luffy. The giant girls then say they hate Colin too because he is violent, but if things continue like this, he'll have his own boas later on, no doubt. He's off to a great start. Ripley scolds Colin a bit, but you can tell she's torn between the new and old ways. She even praises him for his attack, saying it's quite good. We're told they are mother and child, but this next part is the craziest to me. We find out that his father was a human and a former pirate, and that he wouldn't couldn't lose to the warriors of Elbaf. Ripley said her quote-unquote husband was younger than her and didn't want to be the only one aging because, giants age super slow, so he didn't officially marry Ripley. Ripley said she had always been a common law wife as a result, but this begs so many questions. Now, yes, you could just accept it, but that's not how my mind works. Does this prove there is a way to make humans giant-sized here? And I'll explain why I asked that. Okay, so I get that a human can potentially beat a giant if they are powerful enough, but if he's the biological father, I find it hard to understand a human-sized dude getting quote-unquote lucky with a giant woman, if you know what I mean. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but let me know how you read this in the comments. One Piece often has adopted fathers though, like Kuma and Bonnie, so it could be one of those situations, but I'm just not sure. Either way, I find this side story, love story to be interesting. The whole idea of him not wanting to age quicker than everyone is interesting to think about, and I hope we find out more about this dude. Imagine it's just Yasop leaving another wife and son and just giving a different excuse this time. So moving on, Robin, Lilith, Chopper, and Bonnie want to stay in the library. Luffy says they would go on ahead to the feast because he is still hungry. Frankie says the island itself is the treasure tree atom. Saw points out though, interestingly enough, that in various books the treasure tree atom can be found around the world, but the age of this particular treasure tree atom is incomparable. So there are multiple tree atoms in the world, but I would assume that this one is the best because it's the oldest and biggest for building those legendary ships. Gerd asks them for a favor, and it's more for the fans than anything. She asks the ones not wearing Elbaf clothes to wear new clothes made by her because of course we don't want just some of the crew to have new arc themed outfits. How are they gonna miss that opportunity to sell Robin in an Elbaf outfit figure? Like, you just can't do it. Brooke, Frankie, Jinbei, and Robin put them on, and now they too can join in the cosplaying fun. Gerd says that her hobby is making human clothes, and she's very pleased and thankful that they tried them on. At the castle located in the vicinity of the western village of Elbaf, where the two mysterious people landed in the previous chapter, the Shanks twin and the girl, the giants there ask how they got in and if they are members of the Straw Hat crew. The woman speaks and says they are looking for a fellow named Loki. The giants ask why they are looking for a criminal like him, calling Loki an evil influence of Elbaf. The woman persists in asking for his whereabouts, but the giants don't answer. So a few things must be noted here. First is that they don't know where Loki is, which to me further confirms this isn't Shanks, since we know the two, meaning Loki and Shanks, knew of each other, and Shanks would not need to go through all this trouble in Elbaf. Now personally, I didn't really need more confirmation. I already called him his twin last chapter, but I know some people still were saying it could be Shanks in the comments, but it's definitely seeming less and less likely as we go. Furthermore, at this point, the more I hear people talking about how bad Loki is, and thinking about how our own good guys are considered outlaw villains by the world at large, the more I think Loki will turn out to be a good-ish guy at the very least. For all we know, evil Shanks twin guy may be trying to wipe out Loki or at least use him for his own ends, and like I mentioned before, Loki and Luffy may need to team up against these new evil forces that suddenly became central to the Elbaf arc. And just to confirm that these guys are the bad guys, the woman throws something at one of the giants and the giant falls down screaming in pain. Is there anyone that still thinks this guy could be Shanks, I wonder, after all of this? The woman then says in a condescending manner, "Your head is too high, you impolite fool. Since when did I ask a question? I was ordering you to answer me." The other giant is confused about what's happening. The face of the Shanks twin dude is not shown though, but we do see the sword handle, and it is similar to that of Shanks and Garling, leading us to believe that the whole family has similar swords. We then cut to the western village of Elbaf. The feast has started. Luffy and Usopp are very happy to finally be on Elbaf. Dori, Bragi, Kashi, Oimo, and Hyruden all express their thanks to Luffy and his crew for what they have done for them. Like back in Little Garden, Enies Lobby, and Dressrosa. When you think about it, it's crazy how much Luffy has helped the giants in general. They're all very natural allies at this point, and that really comes across. They praise Luffy for being an emperor now, and they also praise the crew for being the main culprits of the Wano country incident that brought down Kaido and Big Mom. And I like this detail. Why? Because I feel like with the bounties, Luffy was being positioned as playing an equal role to Law and Kid at Wano, even though he took out Kaido while they worked together to deal with Big Mom. So I like that here, at least, they're finally getting credit for being the quote-unquote main culprits, while I didn't feel that way with the bounties. Then they raise a toast to their friendship, hence the title of the chapter, a sake cup of friendship to the Straw Hat crew, cheers. I love how no matter what, we always get back to drinking here. I feel like Oda must love pounding them back like Zoro. Stanson introduces himself to Luffy, who finally realizes that Stanson was the captured giant in Saboti Archipelago. Stanson says, I felt it was fate's work when we heard that we had joined under your banner. And man, I really like this crew, except for Road, of course. He was definitely the black sheep of the group, but everyone else definitely makes up for the crew as a whole. We got a short flashback, which is honestly useful with such a long series like this one, where we see Stanson's initial appearance in Saboti. As a flashback, it's stated that he was a childhood friend of Hiruden. Ja Rule arrives at the feast, and his intro box reads Mountain Beard Ja Rule. What a sick name, and I mean that in a good way. Mountain Beard, like, that's so powerful. Hero of the Giants, one of the oldest beings in the world, 408 years old. Luffy is shocked though to see a sword piercing Ja Rule's head. He says, hey old man, a sword is piercing through your head. While Ja Rule responds by laughing it off, oh this, thanks to my helmet, I was saved. Luffy then adds, even though it's piercing through it? And the editor's note reads, an overwhelming shock. So here it seems like Oda is trying to counterbalance a bit some of what he did when Kid Big Mom one-shot this dude's co-captain by making this co-captain look extra tough, but it's still hard to forget the Big Mom stuff, honestly. Definitely a bit of a stain on giant epicness. Like, I get it before it was hyping up Big Mom as a villain, but now that she's defeated, it just doesn't seem right that it was that easy. But at least Oda is attempting to build some of that giant toughness and giant epicness back up with this guy. Now, if you did enjoy this one, then you won't want to miss this video on screen right now that YouTube says you will enjoy. Like and subscribe for more One Piece, and I'll see you in the next one.